Hi, and welcome to Ember in Action Series, Episode 10, Server-Side Form Validation. In this episode, we'll add server-side validation to the mix. Remember, no matter how good your client-side validation is, you must validate data on server because client-side validation can be easily ignored. So first, we'll implement server validation for book title uniqueness, both for creating new book or updating existing one. Then we see how we can extract function and then import and use it in places we need it. And then we'll improve our client-side validation. We'll run validations not on form submit like we do now, but on focus out. So let's get started. First of all, let's open book form.js file. This is the code of our component, and here we create errors object in component itself, and then later we validate it on the client side right here. But our component can't communicate with server or Ember data model. This happens in the route, so what we need to do is to path error object from route to component, just like we pass book object. So for that, let's open new.js route, and here where we set book model, we also set errors object, which is ds errors create. And now at the top, of course, we need to import ds from Ember data. Now we need to go to new.hbs file and here pass errors from the controller into the component, like this. So now go back to component and we need to delete these errors from here. So let's go to new.js route, and here we had action create book, which we moved to books.js. So let's move it back. We'll use it from there, so I'm gonna cut it and paste it into here. So now if the book saves, we just redirect to books.book route, but if not, we catch the error response from server, and it will have some kind of response object, and then we need to parse this response object and populate errors object from it. But for that, of course, we need some kind of response from the server, so let's go to mocks of our books. And here is our post route. So we will introduce the uniqueness validation. So the title of the new book must be unique. That means that we need an array of titles. We'll just call it book titles. And then we iterate through books and push into book titles, we push item.title. So this is the simple map, basically. We just create a new array of all titles that we have now in database. And then we need to search for the new book's title in this array. So we'll do book titles, index of new book title. And if it not equals to -1, that means that new book's title was found in book's title. So we need to respond with error. Otherwise, we respond with all things that we had before. So let's move them and indent them. In this case, though, we respond with status, let's say 400, and then we send errors object. Again, in JSON API format, we'll have errors object, which is an array of objects, and inside of it we have object which has source, which is basically the source of the error. So we specify the pointer to the source of the error is data, attributes, title. And then we provide the detail about this error must be unique. Okay, so if title is not unique, we respond with this error. So now we need to go back to our route and parse this error. So we do respond errors. For each, we iterate through it. I call it error. And then we need to get these particular errors and populate it. To do that, we can just define errors variable, which gonna be this dot controller for this route books.new, and then we get errors. So this way we get this object right from the books new controller. And then we can use it right here and populate it. So we do errors.add. Then we need some kind of an attribute. We need to know what attribute generated an error, and we have this information in our response. And the message is also right from the response, which is error.detail. So now we need to create this attribute, which is basically error.source.pointer. Then we split this pointer by slash, and then we take the third item. So if we go back to the mock, you'll see that we have a pointer, and the first one will be empty string, then data, then attributes, and then title. So the title is what we're looking for. That's the attribute's name. And then the third index in an array. Okay, so that should do it. Let's go to browser. Let's go to our books and try to add new book with existing title. And now if we add book, we'll see that we have here the post request, which returns band request 400. And then we see must be unique validation message. So if we fix it and submit, it works. Okay, we need to do the same thing with editing. So right now, if I try to change it to this one, I can update it. We can't allow this. So let's do, basically we need to do the same thing. So from books here, I'm gonna cut this update book back to edit.js file in here. I also need to add here the errors and of course to import ds from Ember data. And then right from the new here, I'm going to copy and paste this catch block like this. And here I need to define errors to be this controller 4. This time there's going to be books.edit get errors. Of course, I need to go to edit.hbs file and pass this errors object to component. So now we need again to change the server-side code. So we scroll down here to the patch route. And here as well, we need to have book titles. But this time it's going to be a little bit different. So we have books for each. And we need to check for the current book title. So if item.id is not the same as parsing book ID, only then, only in this case, we push item.title into these book titles. So this way we can update the current book. Otherwise, it will not pass the validation of the uniqueness. And then we do the same thing. I'm going just to copy it from here and paste it down here. Let's indent it and close bracket here. So next we need to change this new book to books errors.title, and we're good to go. Let's have a look in the browser. So let's try to edit this book and rename it to Hamlet. And when we try to update it, it must be unique. We can't update the book with a title that already has been taken. But if we go with the previous thing here and just change the author, it works. Excellent. So this is very basic server-side validation combined with client-side validation. Of course, there are lots of room for improvement. One thing to improve is this thing here. In new.js, we have these 4 lines of code. And in edit.js, we have absolutely the same, these 4 lines of code. So it would be cool to extract them, right? So let's have a look how we can extract function. And then with the help of MVCLI and ES6, just import it where we need it. So instead of these 4 lines, what we want to have is some kind of server errors parser. And then we pass response there and errors. Okay, so now we can remove this from here. And at the top, we need to import this server errors parser. So we do it like this. Import server errors parser from, and let's place it into utils folder, and we call it again server errors parser. Okay, so now we need to create this file. In app utils, we create server errors parser.js file, and inside of here we export default function and paste the code into here. So this function takes response and errors. We just create separate file with this function, we export default it, and then we import it where we actually need to use it. So let's try it out in the browser. Let's have a look. Can we edit the book? So again, let's do Hamlet. And it still works, excellent. So now we can do the same thing in new route. Here I'm going to import it, and then here I'm going to use it. Response and errors. And that's it. This way you can extract functions or objects and then import them in files you need. Okay, so the last bonus thing that we're going to do in this episode is validation on blur. So right now we validate when we submit the form. Wouldn't it be cool and more user-friendly to run field validation when user is done with particular field? I say yes. So it's quite easy to do. First of all, we need to go to our bookform.hbs file where we have our form, and inside of this input fields, we add action. For this field, it's going to be validate title action, and it happens on focus out. And for this one, for book author, it's going to be validate author, also on focus out. So now we need to define this validate author and validate title in our bookform.js. So here we have actions, and we add validate title, and this function takes value, which is the value of the input field, and then we just call this validate title with this value. And the same thing we do with author. Validate author. Okay, so now we need to define these two methods. Let's do it right here. Validate title is a function with value, and we're going to cut it from here and paste it into here. Also, a good thing to do is to reset error before validation. So we do this get errors, and we want to remove, in this case, all errors for the title attribute. And then we populate it again. And here we just call it this validate title with this get title. And of course here I need to replace this get book title with value. And the same thing with validate author. So I'm gonna cut it from here, this validate author, this get author, and here at the bottom validate author, and I'm gonna just paste it into here, and again change this thing to value, and add errors, remove author. So this way we have two methods, validate title and validate author, and the whole validation is just simple list of all validations we need to do. So we reset errors first, then we run validate title, then we run validate author, and then we return the result of it. Oh, and I of course made here the mistake. We have book title and book author. Okay, so let's have a look. So now if I go to form and just tab out from this title, I have an error, which is cool. If I type something, the error is gone. And I still have my server-side validation. So if I provide the existing title and try to add book, I have must be unique error. But if I provide something else, it works. That's it for this episode. Now you know how to implement basic validation logic in your Ember application. If you liked this episode, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, like this video, and share it with your friends, or follow me on Twitter. If you want to ask any question or simply say hello, go to my blog ramdalatik.net. Thank you very much for your time, and have a great day.